This is Rabbi Ronit Tsadok. In my drash today, I'll be speaking about mental health and suicide, including the tragic rise in suicide and suicide attempts among teens in our country, something which has touched our community and others with whom we're closely connected. If you or someone you know is in distress, please reach out for help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24 hours a day for free and confidential support. Their number is 1 800 273 8255.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. How are you holding up? It has been a hard 2 weeks. Work has gone remote for some people again. Here we are, Zooming Shabbat. We're canceling trips. Parents are struggling. Will school stay open from day to day? Will my kid be okay? Especially parents of little ones who can't yet be vaccinated, not able to take advantage of the best tool we have in this fight against COVID. And it's not only the changes of this current variant and the surge in cases. I've heard from so many people that these experiences, one day of online school or canceling plans with friends, they're kicking us back into the feeling of those darkest COVID days when we were locked down the hardest. Those days were so much to bear, and for some people it feels like we're back. But in many ways, we really know that we are not. Not surprisingly, as I read through this week's Parsha, or Torah reading for this Shabbat, I was drawn to the plague of darkness, the 9th plague out of the 10. And commentaries for hundreds of years have been trying to understand what is it about the plague of darkness that makes sense for it to be here so late in the sequence, second to last. Is darkness all that bad? Yes, because the darkness they're experiencing is not merely the darkness of night. Let's take a look at what the Torah says with the famous explanation of Rashi. He says that each of the two verses about darkness describes a stage of the plague. First, Vehi choshech afela b'chol eretz Mitzrayim, there was a heavy darkness on all of Egypt for 3 days, a darkness that could be felt and not just seen. And the next verse offers additional details. For 3 days, there was a darkness that was palpable, and no person could see their fellow or rise from their place, and the Israelites had light in their dwellings. This was stage 2, according to Rashi. No one could see each other or rise from their place. Today, as we read these, I want to set aside the distinction that the Torah makes between Egyptians and Israelites, and I just want to look at the experience of human beings during this plague. During the plague of darkness, some people were pretty okay. They had light, at least sometimes. Some people were struggling more, as in those first 3 days of darkness. Rashi said, this darkness of the first 3 days made the regular darkness of night darker. Right? So for some people, this might feel true to us now. The normal stresses of life feel harder. And some people, like in that second stage, they were isolated and disconnected and maybe even felt paralyzed. They couldn't really move. There's also a midrash that teaches that during the plague of darkness, some people died. I am not a mental health expert by any means, but I think it is safe to say that in addition to our pandemic that we're experiencing right now, we are also experiencing a mental health crisis in our country. We're not all experiencing the pandemic the same way, psychologically and emotionally. For some people, the experience might feel pretty manageable, even now. Others move through the darkness, sometimes stumbling, feeling the weight, and still finding their way. Some of us might feel more stuck, isolated, when we're unable to see others physically and disconnected emotionally. We might feel unable to move. And more people during this pandemic time have been attempting and dying by suicide, especially, tragically, beautiful teens. I tried to imagine what it was like during the plague of darkness. Maybe the people with light, they had a bubble around them that allowed them to see more clearly. But if they were at too far a distance from the people in the darkness, maybe their light didn't spread. What if the people with light had entered the homes of those who felt stuck. And even if the light wouldn't illuminate everything, maybe that person sitting stuck in one place all those days would have remembered that they weren't alone. This is harder to do now, even when we have to maintain physical distance yet again, but there are ways that we can reach out to those who we think might be in that darkness. We can call or FaceTime. We can send a meal or a card. We could send a simple text saying that we're thinking of someone. And of course, we can also try and change the systems. We can donate to organizations supporting mental health initiatives, or we can push our elected officials to designate more funds towards mental health services, which are desperately needed. One thing I know to be true, even during the darkest of dark times, there is light. There will always be light. If you need help remembering that, please reach out to someone, because there are so many people who care about you, and there are professionals who can help. Thank God, as hard as this time is, most of us can still be a source of light, of love, and support for those who need it. In this way, we will find our way through these dark days together.